Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English with Billy. It's great to have you tuning in again. I'm your host, Billy, and this is the podcast where we practice our English together, learning new words, understanding different ideas, and hopefully getting a little bit wiser along the way. Today, we're going to do something a bit different. I recently came across a really fascinating long interview with a thinker named Naval Ravikant. Now, Naval is an investor, an entrepreneur, but he's also become known as a kind of modern philosopher. He shares these short, punchy thoughts, these harsh truths, as the video title called them, about life, success, happiness, and just, well, being human. The interview I heard was packed with ideas. Seriously, my brain was buzzing afterwards. So I thought, why not share some of these ideas with you? We can explore his thoughts, maybe challenge them a little, learn some new vocabulary and expressions, and most importantly, practice our English comprehension and speaking by thinking about these big topics. Think of it like we're digging for treasure in this interview, looking for gems of wisdom and useful English. Ready to explore? Let's dive in. Okay, one of the first big ideas Naval tackles is the relationship between happiness and success. It's something we all think about, right? We want to be happy, and often we think success will bring us happiness. But Naval starts with a bit of a paradox, a seeming contradiction. He once said, "Happiness is being satisfied with what you have. Success comes from dissatisfaction." Let that sink in. Happiness is being satisfied, content, okay with your current situation. But success, achieving things, often starts because you're not satisfied. You want something more, something different. You're dissatisfied, so if success requires dissatisfaction, but happiness requires satisfaction, are they opposites? Can you be both successful and happy? Naval himself admits this is complicated, and maybe his view has changed over time. He mentions this very old story about the Greek philosopher Socrates. Socrates goes to a marketplace full of amazing things, luxuries, fancy items, and instead of wanting them, he says, "How many things there are in this world that I do not want." Isn't that an interesting way to think? Naval suggests that not wanting something can be a kind of freedom. It's almost as good as having it because you're not chasing it. You're not feeling lack. He also tells the story of Alexander the Great, the conqueror, meeting Diogenes, a philosopher who lived simply, supposedly in a barrel. Alexander, impressed, says he wishes he could be like Diogenes in his next life. But Diogenes replies, "That's the difference. I don't wish to be Alexander." So, Naval presents these two paths: the path of success, getting what you want, achieving material things, and the path of Diogenes, finding happiness by not wanting much in the first place. To renounce things, that means to formally give them up, to decide not to have them. Diogenes renounced material wealth. Naval admits he took the path of material success first. He found it easier, he says, to achieve his material desires than to renounce them. He jokes, "The reason to win the game is to be free of it." Meaning, you play the game of success, you win, and then maybe you realize it wasn't the ultimate goal, and you become free from needing to play it anymore. But does being happy make you less successful? That's a common idea, isn't it? If you're happy and content, maybe you lose your drive, your ambition. Naval thinks that as he became more peaceful and satisfied, his definition of success changed. He still wants to do things, but maybe bigger, more meaningful things. Things aligned with who he is now. So maybe being happier can actually lead to a different kind of success, one that feels more authentic to you. Life advice number 1 from this section. Maybe happiness isn't just about getting everything you want. Maybe it's also about choosing what you want very carefully. Being choosy, that means being selective, careful about your choices. What desires are truly yours, and which ones have you just picked up from society or advertising? Because as Naval points out later, desire can be a source of unhappiness. Okay, let's talk about suffering. Not a fun topic, I know. But Naval has some interesting thoughts here. One of his points is most of the gains in life come from suffering in the short term, so you can get paid in the long term. This sounds like discipline, right? Like the famous marshmallow test. Resisting the small reward now, 1 marshmallow, to get a bigger reward later, 2 marshmallows. Doing hard work now for a future benefit. Studying hard for an exam. Exercising even when you don't feel like it. Saving money instead of spending it immediately. These things involve some short-term discomfort or suffering. But here's a very important warning Naval gives, and I think this is brilliant. He says people need to avoid becoming suffering addicts. A suffering addict. What does that mean? It means someone who starts to think the suffering itself is the goal or the proof of progress. They feel good because they are in pain, not because of what the pain might achieve. It's like thinking, wow, this workout really hurts. I must be making amazing progress, even if the workout is actually injuring you. Or, this job makes me miserable, so it must be important and I must be achieving something. They use suffering as a proxy for progress. A proxy is something that represents something else. Here, pain represents achievement, but maybe it shouldn't. Naval reflects on his own past. He says if he could go back, he would do everything the same, achieve the same things, but with less anger, less internal suffering. Because that mental anguish, that internal struggle, was often optional. It wasn't necessary to get the job done. He argues someone who can do the job peacefully, maybe even happily, is probably more effective. And this connects back to the idea of the journey. Naval says, the journey is the only thing there is. Even when you achieve success, that feeling often doesn't last long. We get used to things quickly. Think about it. You want something, you suffer, or work hard to get it. You get it, you feel good for a bit, then you get used to it, maybe bored, and then you want something else. It's a cycle. So, if 99% of your time is spent on the journey, on the process of getting there, shouldn't that journey be enjoyable? Or at least peaceful? Life advice number 2. Pay attention to how you achieve things. Is the process filled with unnecessary stress and mental pain? Maybe that pain isn't actually helping you. Try to find ways to do the hard things with more peace, less internal drama. Enjoy the journey, because really it's all there is. Now, let's talk about something that drives a lot of human behavior: status. Status is your social position, how you rank compared to others. Think about fame, popularity, having the coolest car, the biggest house, the most followers online. These are often status games. Naval makes a really important distinction between status games and wealth creation games. He says, Back in hunter-gatherer times, there wasn't much wealth. You couldn't store lots of grain or build factories. So, status was everything. Being high status meant you got the best share of whatever little resources were available. But today we have wealth creation. You can invent something, create a service, build a business that provides value to lots of people, and this, Naval argues, is often a positive-sum game. That means your win doesn't have to be someone else's loss. We can both become wealthier. Society as a whole has become much wealthier than hunter-gatherer times because of wealth creation. Status games, however, are often zero-sum or close to it. Zero-sum means if one person gains, another person has to lose. Think of a ladder. If someone climbs up, someone else is relatively lower. There's only one number one spot. Fame is like this. If someone is super famous, others are less famous in comparison. Naval's point: wealth creation games are generally more pleasant, they create real value, and they have concrete returns. Money solves money problems. Status games are often competitive, combative, and the rewards are fuzzy. You can't exchange your status at the bank. Now, he acknowledges that people who get wealthy often then chase status. They donate buildings, run for office, hang out with celebrities. We seem hardwired to want status. But his advice, especially early in life, is to focus more on creating wealth, on building skills, on providing value. And how do you do that effectively in a world full of competition? Naval has a fantastic line: escape competition through authenticity. Authenticity means being genuine, being your real self. He says, no one is going to beat you at being you. Think about that. Instead of trying to be like everyone else, figure out what makes you unique. What are you naturally good at? What do you genuinely enjoy doing? Something that feels like play to you, but might look like work to others? If you find that thing and focus on it, you step out of direct competition because nobody can replicate your unique combination of skills, interests, and personality. This leads to another core idea: productize yourself. This sounds a bit businesslike, but the idea is simple. Figure out what you uniquely offer the world, something you're good at and enjoy, and find a way to scale it, to offer it as a product or service. It could be your writing, your art, your teaching skills, your ability to organize things, your coding talent. In the modern world, there are so many ways to do this. Life advice number 3: don't get too caught up in comparing yourself to others and playing status games. Focus on creating real value, on building skills, and find your unique strengths, the things only you can do in your specific way. Be authentic. That's where your true advantage lies. Productize yourself. Okay, let's shift gears slightly to something Naval practices quite extremely: freedom, especially freedom with his time and schedule. He talks about deleting his calendar, not committing to things in advance, operating mainly through text messages, even ghosting people, meaning just not replying if he doesn't want to engage. Now, he admits some of this is a luxury of success, but he started some of these habits, like his hostile email autoresponder, saying, "I don't check email," long before he was super successful. He even owned the domain name idontocoffee.com. Why does he do this? He believes the overscheduled life is not worth living. Having your days chopped up by meetings and obligations kills productivity and happiness. He wants the freedom to work on whatever feels most important or inspiring in the moment. He has a great line: "Inspiration is perishable. Act on it immediately." If you feel curious about something, learn about it now. If you feel inspired to write or create, do it now. Don't schedule it for later when the feeling might be gone. This spontaneity, this freedom to follow your energy and curiosity, he believes is key to learning, productivity, and happiness. He also talks about the freedom to say no. Early in life, you might say yes to many things to explore opportunities. But later, once you know what you want to focus on, you have to say no to almost everything else by default. Every yes to something unimportant takes away time and energy from what truly matters. He even has a way to deal with annoying requests. People asking for favors or your time. He asks himself, would I ask someone else to do this? If the answer is no, he feels okay just dismissing the request, deleting the email, not even letting it take up mental space. This might sound a bit harsh, right? He even calls himself selfish, maybe holistically selfish. Holistic means looking at the whole picture. So maybe it means being selfish in a way that considers his overall well-being and focus. He argues everyone is inherently selfish, putting themselves first to survive, but maybe he's just more unapologetic about it, meaning he doesn't feel the need to apologize or make excuses for prioritizing his time and focus. Is this something we can all do? Maybe not to his extreme level. We have jobs, families, responsibilities, but the principle is interesting. How much of our time is wasted on things we don't truly want to do, just out of obligation or guilt? How much more focused and productive could we be if we were better at protecting our time and attention? Naval believes that the real currency of life isn't money or even time. It's attention. Where you choose to put your focus, that's the most valuable resource you have. Life advice number 4. Value your attention like it's gold. Be mindful of where it's going. Learn to say no, politely but firmly, to things that drain your energy or don't align with your priorities. Try to create pockets of freedom in your schedule to act on inspiration and focus on what truly matters to you. Don't feel guilty for prioritizing your well-being and focus. It might actually make you more effective, not less. Let's talk about something really personal: self-esteem. How you feel about yourself. Naval believes this is incredibly important. He says one of the worst outcomes is not having self-esteem, not liking yourself. Because if you're constantly battling yourself internally, facing the outside world becomes almost impossible. Where does self-esteem come from? He suggests a few things. Maybe unconditional love as a child helps build a strong foundation. But he also offers a more active approach. He says, self-esteem is the reputation you have with yourself. Think about that. You are always watching yourself. You know when you act according to your values and when you don't. Everyone has their own moral code, their own sense of what's right and wrong. If you consistently violate your own code, the same standards you hold others to, you damage your reputation with yourself. Your self-esteem suffers. So, one way to build self-esteem is to define your values, your personal code, and then live up to it rigorously. Keep your promises to yourself. He also suggests another path. doing things for others, making sacrifices for people or causes you love. He reflects that the moments he's most proud of are not his material successes, but times he made a genuine sacrifice. Maybe acting ethically, helping others, fulfilling duties. These actions build self-respect internally, even if no one else sees them. He even coined an internal golden rule. The original golden rule is, treat others as you want to be treated. Naval's internal version is, treat yourself like others should have treated you. This is especially for people who maybe didn't receive that unconditional love early on. It's about giving yourself the respect, kindness, and validation you might have missed. Connected to this is dealing with the past. Many people are held back by past hurts, traumas, or difficult childhoods. Naval acknowledges he had a tough childhood, but says he doesn't think about it much now. How? He says he processed it, thought about it specifically to get rid of it, not to dwell on it or build an identity around it. He compares it to the Gordian knot, a famous story about an incredibly tangled knot that no one could untie. Alexander the Great simply took his sword and cut it. Naval suggests that sometimes trying to perfectly untangle the complexities of your past is impossible and time-consuming. At some point, if it's holding you back, you might just need to, metaphorically, cut the knot and decide not to let it define your present or future. Life is too short to be endlessly burdened by a past you can't change. Life advice number 5, build self-esteem by living in alignment with your own values. Keep promises to yourself. Treat yourself with kindness and respect, and don't let your past define you forever. Learn from it, process it if needed, but don't become a prisoner of it. Sometimes we all face difficult choices in life. Which job to take? Where to live? Who to be in a relationship with? Naval offers some practical rules, or heuristics. Heuristics are like mental shortcuts or rules of thumb for problem solving, for decision making. Heuristic number 1. If you can't decide, the answer is no, especially when considering adding something new or making a change. Modern life offers endless options. If something isn't a clear yes, it's probably a no. This helps keep your life simpler and more focused. Heuristic number 2. If you have 2 choices that seem equal, take the path that's more painful in the short term. Why? Because our brains naturally avoid immediate pain, often overestimating its importance compared to long-term consequences. The path that feels harder right now might be the one that leads to better long-term outcomes, the one that involves growth or avoids a bigger problem down the line. We delay the pain, but maybe we shouldn't. Heuristic number 3, credited to Kapil Gupta. Take the choice that will leave you more equanimous in the long term. Equanimous means calm, peaceful, composed. Choose the option that will lead to less mental chatter, less regret, less internal conflict in the future. Which decision will bring your mind more peace overall? He suggests focusing this intense decision-making on the big 3 early in life. 1. Where you live. This impacts everything. Opportunities, friends, dating pool, cost of living, quality of life. People often don't think hard enough about this. 2. What you do. Your career, your work. Find something aligned with your authentic self, something that feels like play. 3. Who you're with, your partner, your close relationships. This is crucial, especially if you plan to have children. On relationships, he warns against choosing partners based on their resume, like where they went to school or their job title, or based on their potential. Oh, they could be great if they changed. He echoes the idea. You can't change other people. People change on their own schedule, through their own insights or traumas, not because you want them to. Focus on who they are now and whether your core values align. Do you trust them? Do you enjoy simply being with them? That's more important than superficial qualities or wishful thinking. And this relates to learning. Naval argues that understanding is far more important than discipline, especially for mental things. Once you truly see the truth of something, you can't unsee it. Your behavior changes automatically. Think about seeing a friend do something truly dishonest. Your perception changes instantly. Or experiencing a painful injury from lifting weights improperly. You learn the limit immediately. This deep understanding, often gained through direct experience, sometimes painful, is more powerful than just trying to force yourself to change through willpower alone. This is why Naval says wisdom is unteachable. You can hear advice, but you often have to experience the truth of it yourself for it to really sink in and change you. Life advice number 6. Be intentional about your big life decisions. Where, what, who. Use Naval's heuristics if they help. Default to no. Choose short-term pain for long-term gain. Aim for long-term peace of mind. Don't try to change others. Focus on your own actions and reactions. Seek deep understanding, often through experience, rather than relying only on willpower or discipline to change your mindset or behavior. Wow, we've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? From happiness and success, suffering and the journey, status versus wealth, authenticity, the power of saying no, protecting your attention, building self-esteem, cutting ties with the past, making decisions, and the nature of learning. Naval Ravikant offers so many thought-provoking ideas. They might seem harsh sometimes, or maybe even contradictory, but they make you think, don't they? And that's the goal here at English with Billy, to use these kinds of discussions to improve our English and maybe gain some new perspectives on life. What are the big takeaways for me? 1. Be conscious of your desires. Do you really want that? Or is society telling you to want it? Not wanting can be a form of freedom. 2. The journey is the reward. Try to find peace and even enjoyment in the process, not just the outcome. Avoid suffering for suffering's sake. 3. Authenticity is your superpower. Find what you uniquely offer and lean into it. Escape competition by being yourself. 4. Your attention is your most valuable resource. Protect it fiercely. Learn to say no. 5. Build self-esteem by living up to your own standards and being kind to yourself. Don't be a prisoner of your past. These are big ideas, and like Naval said, wisdom often comes from experiencing things ourselves. But talking about them, thinking about them, using our English skills to explore them, that's a valuable journey in itself. All right, that's all the time we have for today on English with Billy. I hope you found this exploration of Naval Ravikant's ideas interesting and useful for your English practice. Did any of his ideas resonate with you? Did you disagree with any? Thinking about these things is great practice. As always, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, or sharing it with a friend who's also learning English. It really helps the podcast grow. Keep practicing, keep thinking, and I'll talk to you in the next episode. Bye for now.